Hello and welcome to my very first beginner's painting tutorial in 10 minutes, the 10-minute tutorial. Today we're going to be painting this lovely cherry blossom tree, a very stylized landscape scene with a good reflection. Here are the paintbrushes that I'm going to be using along with a palette knife, and hopefully your final result will be lovely like this one. And I'm going to start by mixing titanium white and cerulean blue into a nice pastel pile. Then quinacridone magenta and titanium white in a neighboring pile to make a nice light lavender color. Next, the same amount of titanium white, but this time with cadmium red to make a nice warm pink, pale pink. And then the last color that I'm going to mix is going to be titanium white and cadmium yellow light. And that's going to be the end of our pastel palette that I'm going to be using for the background of this scene. I'm going to start with my large oval wash brush and do a nice long vertical stroke. Make sure that you have enough water in your paintbrush to maintain control and so you don't get dry brushing like that. So I'm gonna do about 2 inches of my area, and then I'm gonna rinse my brush out and pick up my lavender. Covering about 1/2 inch of the previous color, I'm gonna get a nice blend before I continue for about the same width as the previous stripe. Making sure to move quickly so that I can get this smooth, wet blend. Next, rinsing out my brush and then picking up the pink, same technique, and I am trying to move quickly. The remaining amount of painting is going to be yellow. I'm going to start from the edge this time with a nice clean brush. And then I'm going to pick up some more pink and smooth that last gradient right there. And that's going to be it for our background. So now I'm going to mix a darkest dark color, but I want it's going to be in the distance, so I'm picking up some blue gray. And with a flat brush, I am just going to do a little bit of an island, and this has to be below half. I don't want to cut my image in half with this landmass. That's going to be our distant. Now I'm going to lighten it up a bit and add more blue, and the other landmass is going to be coming out from the right and a little bit taller. Don't worry about making these lines too straight or smooth, it's just dirt. So now I'm picking up my liner or script brush, and I'm doing the distant trunks of the trees. These don't have to be very scientific, just throw them in there. Now the foreground tree. So I'm painting from the bottom and moving my brush up towards the upper branches, and they're going to taper out. So as I'm painting those up, I'm going to lift the bristles and they'll get a little thinner. Okay, so I'm going to add some cadmium red to our light pink to deepen that color a bit. And a little touch of quinacridone magenta. And now the foliage for the background trees. I'm going to do kind of a pouncing brush stroke. You don't have to be exact. Just move the brush with the bristle, with the direction of the branches to get those figures in. You can do the same thing with foreground tree. Just add a little bit more pink to differentiate the foreground from the background a bit. I lightened up the pink just a touch, get some highlights and some depth in that foreground tree. And now the tops of the background trees. This now is going to be the reflection in the water Adding a little bit more red to deepen that pink. Using big horizontal brush strokes with some water in the brush to make it nice and controllable. Now picking up some of that blue-gray to add the reflection of the landmass. Lots of water here to add some transparency. And I'm breaking up the brush strokes to show the movement in the water. Now I'm going to be painting with light pink the petals that have fallen from these trees onto the land. A couple of small ones in the front, in the foreground would be a lot closer, but then in the background making sure that those areas of blossoms are like more like big piles, so you can be really vague with your brush strokes out there, and make sure to add some little petals that have fallen into the water as well. Okay, now adding a little bit of yellow to the light pink just to differentiate the petals that are on the water, make them stand out a little bit from the reflection pink. And then detailing in that little break from the land mass to the water's reflection. I'm gonna pick up a little bit of the pink yellow color and just highlight the tops of the trees. One more round of that before painting in some branches. Now I'm going to mix burnt sienna and ultramarine blue for a nice dark color, but you know, it has to be just a little bit darker than the trunks. I'm going to be using the light blue to lighten it up a bit. I'm going to start by adding that color to the trunk, and then these don't have to be connected to the branches that you can see. But just keep in mind that they come away from your main tree structure. Just take your time with this step. Make sure your hand's comfortable so that it feels steady. Next thing you're going to do is lighten up that color just a bit, because now we're going to do the background tree branches. And just keep your touch really light. You can continue some of those trunks into the foliage a little bit, but mostly just disperse them randomly. Try to keep your intervals uneven between the branches. And make sure there's enough water in your script brush to control those bristles. Okay, now I'm mixing just a very light melon color, and I'm gonna pump up the highlights on some of these petals just a little bit. As acrylic paint dries, it shifts a little bit in color or value, and you can just go back and touch up things. Okay, now I'm gonna add some little birds because I feel like it needs it. It wasn't originally in the plan. I call these M birds. They're pretty simple. I'm using the script brush and just some really pale pink to do these guys. I think it adds something nice. So I hope you enjoyed doing this painting with me today. I look forward to doing some more beginner tutorials to get you off in the right direction, and I hope you'll join me again. So until next time, happy painting.